Hello, this is Dr. Reilly. Today we're going to talk about weight loss, a subject near and dear to my heart. And I'm going to tell you the most important thing that you need to know to lose weight under just about any method that you want to lose weight. And the reason why I do this is because when I was a young pediatrician, I thought that I would be doing nothing but taking care of kids that look like this, right? That they were, happy, jumping around, healthy looking. But instead, I started taking care of a lot of kids who were like this, where they're taking medicines. And if you're like me, you would like this to never happen, right? You don't want anybody to have to take a medicine when they're a little kid. And unfortunately, it seems like a lot of the reason why the kids have this kind of issue is because of the food, right? And one of the main reasons why we're in the predicament that we are in the United States is because of this graph, which is one of the most important graphs you will ever see in your entire life. And it talks about the effect that insulin has on our fat storage. So you could see on one side of the graph, we have the fat breakdown. And then here we have the insulin, right? And this is a little bit sciencey, right? But it's the kind of thing, as the insulin goes up, the fat breakdown goes down to zero, right? So I do have kids, they come in and their insulin is 50. So you could see when your insulin is 50, you're not breaking down fat, man. You are going to just be in just storing fat kind of mode. Whereas the opposite is like my poor kids who have type 1 diabetes, they lose so much weight because look at this. When your insulin starts going down to zero, it's 100% fat breakdown. And before they had invented, or I guess discovered that you could use insulin to treat kids with type 1 diabetes, this is what they would see. They would see these poor moms trying to pour calories into these kids, 20,000 calories in a day, and still they would lose weight. Yeah, no, this is the crux. This is one of the keys to all this kind of stuff in terms of fat metabolism. So yeah, so again, the higher your insulin, the more you're going to store weight as fat. The lower your insulin, you can't even store fat because your body will not let you, right? You could get yourself into big trouble. So, okay, so then good. So then that seems easy, Dr. Reilly. Then just what raises your insulin, right? So we could see on these graphs a way that actually insulin is released inside your body. So, you have the carbohydrates, which, raise insulin the most, the highest. So you could see on this graph, it's kind of, that's what it's supposed to represent, that, especially like simple carbohydrates, like juices and white bread and things like that, raise your sugar really fast, right? They also raise your insulin really fast, right? But, what about a vegan who eats a lot of carbohydrates? Well, it raises it up and then it goes back down. So it's not a prolonged release of the insulin. So usually that's why someone who comes to see me and they're vegan and they want to lose weight, what we try to do is we try to limit their fat. So that way their insulin goes up. We usually try to keep them with complex carbohydrates. So that way it's not going as high. When you're insulin resistant, your insulin tends not to go down so fast. It tends to go down a little bit slower. And you can imagine, just looking at this graph, if you have a combination of simple carbohydrate, protein, and fat, yeah, your insulin stays up the longest. And unfortunately, the longer your insulin stays up, the more it wants to stay up. So a lot of times what we're doing is, like, for example, when we give someone a breakfast plan, which would be eggs, water, some cheese, or an omelet with like spinach and feta cheese or something like that, it's the kind of thing that does not raise your insulin as high because it's mainly protein and fat. So it's the kind of thing that the insulin never gets that high. So when the insulin does not get that high, remember, it's the kind of thing that your body can actually break down fat. This is, some people do this like all day long. They just eat fat only, like some of these keto type people eat mostly protein and fat. We don't think that that's healthy for kids, but it's the kind of thing that we usually try to do, is try to figure out a way so that way their insulin is not going to be high all day long and quite frankly all night long, because we're usually checking the insulin first thing in the morning. And if your insulin is high first thing in the morning, that means it was high the whole night and your body was not able to break down the fat, right? So like these kids who wake up in the morning and their insulin is 50, it is like almost impossible for them to lose weight. Ideally, it should be going down at least some point, and usually we're shooting for a level like around 8 to actually have a good bit of weight loss while you're sleeping. So this graph, I just want to show, this is what's supposed to happen, right? Is that you're supposed to eat a meal, your insulin goes up, your insulin goes down, it actually goes down a little bit, and then you can actually burn some of your fat. Then it goes up and down, and then while you're sleeping, which you're not eating when you're sleeping, so technically that's fasting. So yes, people do fast. They fast every single day, hopefully, but it's the kind of thing that when they have break fast, their insulin ideally should be back down to a normal level. But this is not what I'm seeing. When I see kids who have the fasting insulin, they're not in balance, and they eat breakfast and then their insulin goes down to here, and then they eat lunch and then it goes down to here, and then they eat dinner and it goes all the way up and it stays high. So they almost like are missing these kind of decreases in insulin when they're sleeping, and it gets them into trouble. So that's what we have to do. If we want to lose weight, we have to lower our insulin so that way our body can actually cooperate and we can lose weight. And this is just more sciencey kind of stuff to talk about how things tend to go, where a normal person, if we give them some glucose, which anybody who's had a baby has done this test before, where they drink some sugar, and then it's the kind of thing, then the doc measures their sugar a few hours later. We do this sometimes for kids too, where we give them some sugar, it goes up, it goes down. We usually measure the insulin and we measure the glucose and we see how they're doing. And what we notice is that as you start becoming more like a pre-diabetic person, as you start to get more sick, your insulin goes higher, until you're basically like a diabetic kind of person, right? And this is what happens, right? So this is what we're trying to prevent. We're trying to catch kids when they're still in this high insulin stage, because this is what happens is first you start having high insulin all the time. Then your body starts becoming insulin resistant. Then your body can't handle all the sugar and it starts like needing almost like higher sugars. Then you get heart problems. Then you get diagnosed with diabetes. And like recently, I just had a little kid who's only 7 years old diagnosed with diabetes. I mean, this is crazy. Most of the kids that we see that come to see us in our office for a nutrition consult, they are pre-diabetic, and this is not good. And we're trying to prevent this march, this change where their bodies become more and more diabetic. This is what's happening in America right now, where so many people have diabetes. And what the pre-diabetes, what we have to realize is that the pre-diabetes is like having high blood pressure, which you don't feel bad when you have high blood pressure, but you will feel bad, right? And the same thing with the pre-diabetes is that we have to knock it out of the kids once they're small, right? Once they're younger, because if we let them get older and then all of a sudden get diabetes, then they're in big trouble, right? So we have to act. So the first thing that you have to do is ideally consult your doctor, right? So usually we know, like especially at RBK, we know what we have to do to make kids lose weight. We just do exactly what we were talking about, is we lower the insulin. We change the diet so that way this does not happen, where all of a sudden we're having prolongation of the effect of insulin in our bodies. We have to stop the march of to diabetes, right? And we have many different things. So normally we tend to do blood tests and things, because one of the worst things is when you think you're doing the right thing and you get frustrated. It doesn't seem like it's working well. And usually it is the kind of thing that I kind of think of myself as a coach, right? A coach helps someone to not waste time. So that way, when you do something, it's actually going to be the most effective way. And one of the things that I think that people really don't understand is that we have an epidemic of kids who are malnourished. And one of the things that we know is that when you're low in a lot of your micronutrients, which are all your different vitamins and minerals and things like that, it is harder to lose weight, right? Because your body shifts into a slow metabolism mode. If you are a person who's tried to lose weight and realize that their metabolism is different than other people, then almost always this is why, right? Because you have some kind of issue going on inside your body that we have to figure out, right? And to tell you the truth, that a lot of times you need to be a doctor to figure this kind of stuff out, because we're going to be the ones that order the bloods. And if you think that it's rare that any kid would have micronutrient deficiency, then you are wrong, right? Because this is not rare. It is a thing that we see a lot. In fact, this is something that I see in almost every single kid that I do an evaluation on. They are low in something, right? And yes, if you kind of replace these vitamins, and ideally you replace them with real whole foods, then we can replace these kind of things, not just for now, because I mean, I sometimes have to give these kids vitamins and minerals, but I don't want to do that. I want to replace them with real food. And almost always that is part of the problem, is that we're not eating foods on this list. We're eating foods that are junk. And they are things that they say they have vitamins, but they really don't have vitamins, right? So yeah, so usually that's the thing, is that what we're going to do is we're going to find out what the problem is. We're going to try to change your diet, work with you so that way we can lower the insulin. And, and this is one of the key things, is that it doesn't have to happen today. I mean, one of the things that I see is like, every once in a while I have a kid, I see them for a physical, and I'll say to them, okay, dude, because usually I end up seeing a lot of guys, this is what you have to do to lose weight. And then they come back a year later and they've lost a ton of weight, right? I just saw a kid like that. He just lost 40 pounds. It's a rare kind of thing. Most of the time, people walk to their future healthier self. They don't sprint, they don't run. They slowly make changes, because it is a problem. It's not just the kid's problem, it's the whole family's problem. How hard it is to change a grandma. So this is my life, right? So yeah, to lower the insulin, you have to change everybody in the family, and they have to be willing to make a change. But that doesn't necessarily happen fast. So you don't have to be perfect, right? So if you've tried before and it didn't seem to work, trust me, eventually it will work, as long as we keep trying. You don't have to be perfect. All you have to do is just, make small changes. I tell everybody, every step in the right direction is a step in the right direction. So I would encourage you to come to see us if you're wanting to lose weight. I think it's the easiest, smartest way to do things. That certainly, even people who are professional golfers have a swing coach, or even Tom Brady has people that help him to win Super Bowls. He has coaches and staff and all these people working for them. Yeah, so usually it's the kind of thing I would say that we all need help. And so I would say that we all, and certainly the guys at RBK, we all have worked really hard to see what are the most effective ways to help kids lose weight. So hopefully you'll take us up on this, right? And I will be making more videos, so that way people can reinforce their knowledge, so that way they can kind of get a better idea what exactly they have to do to help people to lose weight. All right, thank you for your attention, and I hope to see you soon.